All right. Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning, everybody.
Everyone.
Good
Oh my
morning.
gosh.
Happy day after St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a
That's
beautiful
when we
day
have
yesterday.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Did y'all have corned beef and cabbage?
No.
No.
Oh, I did. I made it Sunday.
Okay.
Oh.
The only I love corned beef hash, but we've never made corned beef and cabbage. We got
Oh, it's
invited to a
easy.
friend's. I know we got invited to a friend's. My husband's like, that was good. I'm glad we don't have leftovers.
It's easy. You just get the meat and you stick it in a pot
Yeah.
with some carrots and spices
Yeah.
and let it cook for 4 hours. Done.
Yeah.
Nope.
You could use a
Not for
crock
me.
pot, but
All
I like
right.
stuff in the oven. But
Okay.
anyway,
Well, let's introduce Megan Tarnow as we just jumped right into corned beef and cabbage. Megan is the just a trailblazer in the trailblazer in the nonprofit accounting. She helps so many people in there, and she's now started up a new group for those who want to learn more about it called the Nonprofit Accounting Crew. So we'll check it out. We'll put the link in there for you guys if you want to check it out too. But it's a wonderful group, and they've already got a lot of members. So congratulations,
Thank you.
Megan, for jumping off the cliff and starting it.
Yeah.
So I know it's been a long time coming. So
I've been promising people for years.
yes,
You know?
I've heard you talking about for a long time. I got to start this. I got to start this.
so this is a paid group that you join. So it does really focus on people that are very interested in nonprofits. It's not a catch-all like a Facebook group that anybody can join, right?
Yeah. So the Facebook group, which is interesting. I think we just had our on the 16th was our 7th anniversary of the Facebook group, right? And that one was started I was supposed to be speaking at this nonprofit accounting conference here in the Twin Cities, and it got snowed out. And so I had this whole free afternoon, and I was just bummed and missing my people, and oh, I wish there was a group on Facebook or I'm like, somebody should start one. Yeah, so that one's kind of taken off, but there were people who were like, we need a place to go deeper. We want to have kind of deep conversations about stuff, and you can't do that on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So I did finally, and again, it was who the hell am I to be starting this thing? It's well, somebody needs to. Why not me? Yeah. And so we've been open to the doors a week ago. We got 32 members already. So yeah.
Are you limiting the number of people that can participate so you can get to everybody?
I mean, yeah, I suppose. I can't imagine that yet, but yeah, I think so. Because I feel you can't be really in relationship with 13,000 people like we have in the Facebook group. You can maybe be in relationship with 250, maybe.
Yeah. Well, do you meet twice a month, once a month? Do you have a circle group or a...
So it's on Circle, right? We got different channels, and people seem to be in there participating and stuff. And I started it because people kept asking, and I didn't necessarily have a plan for what we were going to do. I need to come up with, some kind of recurring rhythm of how we meet and when we do that. But kind of letting them drive it. So we did a meet and greet. We're going to do some show me your tech stack kind of stuff, because it's just interesting to see who joined. It's not necessarily who I thought would join. Mm-hmm. Some of it's people I haven't had a great, I don't necessarily have interactions with them a lot. So that has been really interesting. And there's a range from people kind of just starting their practices to people with employees in larger firms. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
And you were one of the very first nonprofit people, focused accountants.
After Boston. Boston's the OG.
Well, Boston, but let me finish that embraced QuickBooks Online, because he did not.
And for me, it was, I really wanted to be part of the Trainer Writer Network. I really wanted that. And Allison Ball came to me. She goes, we'd love to have you, but we've got enough desktop people.
Right.
So if you want in, you've got to become certified in QBO. And
right.
And so, I did what everybody did right in 2017-ish.
Yeah, it was about then. Yeah.
Because I had my first client on online in 2006. And I'm like, this is not ready for prime.
Dingo.
I'm not going anywhere near it. So I moved my firm over and like did the certifications and the advanced certification, all that stuff to become part of the trainer writer network. And what really sold me was locations.
Because you really have developed how to use QuickBooks Online for nonprofits. It's really magical that how you use the platform to make the, restricted grants. Not, I mean, you make it sing.
And I had people like, oh, you really, you've got all these workarounds. I'm like, I have no workarounds.
There are no workarounds.
I'm not working around the software. I just understand how it functions, and I optimize it for our purposes and our needs, right?
And that's what we talk about all the time. If you learn how the software works and make it work for what you need, and you have really done that for nonprofits. I mean, do you use like so what's your, do you use the project list for
grants, restricted grants? Yep.
And then how do you use locations? What was the selling point of locations?
So this is what sold me originally on QuickBooks Online, and I've had to like come up with other processes for people for whom it's because locations are kind of a lot. It's a lot to get started with. It's a lot to maintain. But when we use them for without and with donor restriction, like we can get a P&L and a balance sheet that looks just like the audit.
Just by using locations.
Just by using locations. And like we can hand off like truly audit ready financials. Because you still hear a lot of auditors who are like, I worked with somebody yesterday who was on QuickBooks Online, and their auditor back in 2020, which is not that long ago, was like, this is garbage. You need to go back to the desktop. So they did. And now they're like, no, we need to be on online. So they're going through the whole process over again. Yeah.
I know that's the biggest challenge is when you have a auditor or a tax preparer who does not know the software.
Right.
And then unfortunately, I mean, we always say the bookkeepers, the accountants, the everyday people like us, we know what works. And then you have somebody with 3 letters behind their name come in and say, no, this doesn't work. You don't know what you're talking about.
Like, let me show you. Right?
Yeah.
We'll
and I think
show you what
I think Donna and my mission and yours too is to educate these these, I don't want to say higher level, but these different functional accountants, and then teach the rest of us to have the confidence to talk back to them.
Yeah. Well, and it's like what I'm finding, and you guys find it too in Facebook groups, right? There's a big range of knowledge on bookkeepers too. Like I'm having like, I'm constantly like beating the drum that you cannot drive a nonprofit from the bank feed. Like,
yes,
it just
absolutely.
It's like we need to be doing I've run across people like more than once who were keeping a Google sheet of the checks they'd written because they thought they couldn't put them in QuickBooks Online until they showed up in the bank feed. We're like,
I've seen that. Yep, I've seen that.
So that's not getting out there. But I think for all of us, right? Like that's our superpower is we know the accounting.
Right.
And we know the tool.
Right.
And I think a lot of people know one or the other.
Yes, I agree.
And
because the challenge is online, you see all of these people saying, learn QuickBooks and start $1 million. Like, no, you don't even know a debit from a credit. Or they go to college and they never learn the tool. QuickBooks is only a tool. It's not the magical thing that's going to, and they don't learn.
No accounting.
So if you can do both, and you have just done with nonprofits, amazing stuff. And I will be frank with you guys. I have called her.
That's my favorite thing. Like that's most of what I do now, Deb, is I consult with other accountants and like really, really good ones. Like it
like me.
blows my mind, the folks I get to work with. You're like,
Yeah. And what's nice is it doesn't have to be specific for nonprofits. I mean, construction, the projects and all of that.
Yeah.
And so I know I think of the projects, which I really like. And then somebody will call up and say, well, I don't want to pay $99 a month I just raised the Riot Act. I go, you're kidding me. You spend more than that on coffee.
Right. Well, did you guys, so I feel stupid because I've probably been doing this for 20 some years before I knew about this report. You guys, and my favorite thing is in a nonprofit, it's called the revenue by customer summary. Otherwise, I think it's the income by customer summary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I went 20 some years in this career and like had no idea that report did what it did. That thing is genius. And then like one of the default filters is in progress projects. So
Right.
like you can get rid of all the noise of all the other customers and just see the project activity. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
It's all about the reports. I mean, when I tell people, I said, accounting just answers questions. So what are the questions you have? And as a nonprofit, you have not only a profit and loss, you have grants to track. I know, like I just finished a nonprofit tax return this morning, and there's the three things. And I know that's
statement of functional expense.
yeah. So, I mean, that's for class.
Yep.
And then, of course, during the tax return, Hal does the tax return, but I make it ready for him to drop it on the form. There's, Part D, Schedule D, Part 6, where you have to add up the appreciation. Then there's the gaming thing where you have to get the fun, so how do I get that all in QuickBooks so I can click a button at the end of the year? There it is.
Or like multiple buttons, right? Because I'm always like, I don't know. I'm always like, you might need a separate report.
Yeah.
It's possible you're going to need an additional report,
Right.
to capture all the stuff, but it's in there, right?
It's
it doesn't
there.
all have to be in the chart of accounts necessarily.
Right. It's kind of like the vendor list. I mean, I had one guy, was a realtor.
Okay.
He had a chart of account for every single type of advertising where he spent money. There were 33 of them.
I ran across a nonprofit file one time that like collapsed. The P&L didn't look crazy. And if you opened it up, underneath every like office supplies was every place they'd ever bought them.
Every vendor was listed as the
Yes, I've run across that like so many times.
And the employees were listed as income lines. So they did it as like, oh, Susan brought in this much money, and Steve only brought in like what? It was like wow.
Out there. I had one client one time went in and I looked at front of P&L. It was like 10 pages long because just the income.
Yeah.
Because every customer was a chart of account line.
And sometimes they're both, right? It's an account and a class. Because they're like not sure. But
like, oh my God. Does this work for you? And they go, well, if you only have one customer, sure.
Yeah.
But now have 100, 200.
Well, if you have 5 and they're always the same ones, maybe.
Maybe.
And they never change, I guess. Right. Maybe.
I would use the Cheesecake Factory. I would use the Cheesecake Factory menu as an example. I said, Cheesecake Factory doesn't have every single thing they sell. That's the product service list. And then but they do have food and beverage and maybe cheesecake.
Right.
That's the bank does not care when you get a loan how many Cokes versus iced teas you sold. The IRS has one line, sales. Yeah. So you have to understand. But you really are a genius when it comes to that. And I know you embraced QBO quick, first, because I know Greg, who was here with our guest last week, he was a desktop user. And I, traveled around the country with him teaching desktop. And I kept saying, when are you going to move to online? I'm not moving to online. I'm not moving to online. I mean,
well, and even when you started teaching online, like the first half hour was like moaning about how it was different than desktop.
And when I said, Greg, stop doing that. It's different. I mean, if they had named it something else instead of QuickBooks, they would not have this comparison.
Well, we have that conversation with people all the time. Like, well, it doesn't work exactly the same way, and everything came out. I'm like, dude, if you like migrated to Intact, you wouldn't expect it to work just like desktop.
Exactly.
It's a different GL. It's a different piece of software.
I would say, if you bought a Chevy and then you go out and buy a Ford, it's different.
Yeah.
It's still a car.
Yeah.
But the sticks might be in the different place. It's you got to figure it out. I mean, I know Hal drives a Toyota Highlander and I have a Mercedes. When I get in his car, the parking thing is on the thing in the console, and mine is on the thing. And I go, where is it? Every single time I drive his car, I have to remember so I'm going to trade in the car? No, accounting software is like that. Learn the software.
Well, and like, my 1996 Toyota Starlet is not the same as his, 2023 Highlander. Right?
Yeah.
And expecting those to be identical in how they function is like,
Yeah.
nobody expects that.
So Yui, I apologize if I say your name wrong. Accounting answers questions. So what questions do you have? Well, I asked the client, what answers do they want? What questions do they have that I can give the answers to? You know, and there's, and just in regular accounting, I think there's always 5 things they want to know. How much money's in the bank?
Yeah.
Who owes me money? That's your AP. Who do I owe money? Well, that's AR. Who owes me money? AP is who do I owe money to? Make sure my employees are paid and that those payroll taxes are done. And what's my profit so I can tax plan throughout the year?
Yeah.
Those are the 5 major questions. And I'm sure in nonprofits, they might be similar or different, like what's my restricted grant amount, blah, 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 you know.
I always feel like the big ones are, are we okay? Which is a balance sheet. Like if they learn how to use a balance sheet, that's like, are we okay?
Right.
Are we using our dollars the way we intended for mission, right? So that's budget to actual and P&L and function and all that kind of stuff. Don, I know you and I, both of our kids have worked with, Bruce still does, mine's off doing stuff on his own, but he was taking a course last winter on, I don't know, database design or something. And he came back and he goes, the purpose of a database is to turn data into information.
Yep.
And it's just like, I loved that, right? Because that's what QuickBooks is. It's a
database of everything. Yeah.
And for us, the way we structure it is what turns it into usable information.
Yes.
Right? And like I always said, like nobody thinks about their business alphabetically.
That's why I get creative with naming those things.
The P&L, is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like, for me, like the way you group things, and the way you like organize. Like I use account numbers because then I can tell the accounts. Like someone like years ago told me that as native English speakers, our brains automatically put more weight on whatever's at the top and whatever's on the left. So like giving things account numbers allows us to put the most important stuff at the top. And, if you do it alphabetically, salaries and wages, which are probably your biggest single expense, are like way the heck down there and you got to go hunting for them.
And the stuff you don't want them to see, like accounting fees, are the first one.
Right at the top, accounting and advertising. Like,
I'm paying you how much?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get creative. You put it like, that's what I do for, first of all,
about it?
I get creative about the naming. Well, I name it based on how the business owner communicates to me. So I put it in their language first.
Yeah.
Then I get creative on like how I want them to show up on the P&L so that they understand it. So it's all about them and how they can understand the P&L. Yeah. And then teach them. So, geez, now put me on the spot here. So if I want to name something, I'm better on the balance sheet. So the balance sheet is really good because that undeposited funds.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the one that trips a lot of people up. Well, if you just put things like checks on my desk.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the P&L is not so bad. The sales accounts, you just name them. Right. If you need to have like a number of them, like Amazon or, YouTube.
Yeah, Donna does not use account numbers, Megan.
No account numbers. It just confuses them.
I use them. And I did not use them in desktop because I could range it in desktop how I wanted it.
Yeah.
For us, it's like there's so much information that we have to, like, it's like a phone bill is not just a phone bill. For us, a phone bill could be split among 4 different functions and covered by 3 different grants. Like we need more information.
Yeah.
So the numbers are shorthand for them to just like tell us what it is. And then they don't have to like handwrite out the whole thing.
So explain about that to these anyone that's not a nonprofit, like how a phone bill, most of us in a business have a phone bill telephone, but in a nonprofit.
I mean, it's still the account, the natural category is still going to be telephone, right?
Yes, right.
But we also are required to track by function.
So what does that mean, function?
Yeah, it means like, whatever our programs, however we define them, like the thing that we do that makes us a nonprofit. And then management and governance, typically called admin, and then fundraising. So at minimum, they're all going to have 3, but a lot of them might have, 6, 8, 10 programs, and then admin and fundraising.
Because if you had a telephone, if you did a doggy rescue, and you had a telephone in the barn that was its own line, That would be a program expense 100%.
Probably if people only call in to like talk about the barn, right? Talk
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if a grant pays for it, I will pay 25% of your phone bill.
Right.
Now you got to split it out even further.
Right. And people
when people say I want to do nonprofit accounting, I go, do you understand that it's not just a P&L? There's a second P&L with the functional categories, and then a third and fourth and fifth when you start getting into grants or restricted grants.
Yeah, I love it. Like I've done, like I did this whole thing backwards, right? Because I was not a trained accountant, but I got a job early on working in a nonprofit theater when QuickBooks was new. And just it kind of sparked for me. So like instead of choosing a niche, I started with one and became a bookkeeper.
Bookkeeping accounting is just
that's great.
Yeah. It's not because it's not math, it's puzzles.
And it has equal. It's puzzles. I always say I solve Sudoku puzzles all day long. Yeah. This has to equal that. And do you ever get, if you put in a transaction and it's, do you get that? Something's not right. It's not, I tell it's wrong because I just feel off balance. Something's not right.
Like you have to like grab the T-chart, man. Like
I still do T-charts.
Like sometimes just to go like, okay, what has to flow where? Like you have to visualize it.
Right. And people that are just have taken a QuickBooks certification, they have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still have to know the accounting. I think
you have to know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I always say, if you're not sure, just hit transaction journal and it will come up and tell you what's happening behind where it's hitting the profit and loss and the balance sheet and all the places that you want. I go, oh, really? I didn't know it did that. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It's still counting. It's doing accounting.
What's funny is they'll see, CPAs, auditors, well, we want you to make a journal entry. I did. I used a form to do it.
Right. We're hitting exactly the same things, but I captured all of this additional information. Yeah.
Yes. By using because QuickBooks is form-based. I think that's what the genius is about it.
Yeah.
It's not just journal entries. I think we talked about that before, Don, about journal entries.
Journal entries are not fun.
Yeah.
I have to do a few here and there, but for the e-commerce stuff, but I don't really like to do them. But I thought one of the most powerful things you just said, Megan, was it's not math, it's puzzles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people come into this business thinking, oh, I'm good at math, I'll do bookkeeping. Math is rarely enters the picture.
Yeah. And a lot of it, my brother always asked,
"You're not good at math." I'm like, I
need Excel to do math or a calculator.
Yeah.
My brother always asked me, he goes, I don't want you to do my books because then you'll know how much money I make.
I would have to add it up to do that.
I would have to add it up, Eric. First off, these are digits to me. They're like Eric, debits and I look, does it balance? I don't have values behind the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you made $1 million. No. I just go, oh, it balances. Okay, it looks right. The percentages are right. The reports are coming out correct. I never have oh, wow, look how much he made. Hal always says that when I give him this stuff. I go, oh my God, look, do they know how much tax they're going to have to pay? I go, yeah, we've been talking about it all year. Chill.
I never think about it when I look at my clients, and they range from very small to very large. And I never think about it as money at all.
Right. Oh,
I'm just, I never think about it as like wow, this guy's a lot of money in his bank account. It never even crosses my mind. It's like, I'm just trying to put the puzzle together for them. So no matter, it started way back when I had my business too. Of course I knew what my bank account looked like, but when I was putting the puzzle together, it was like, oh, I want to see if we made profit. I want to see all this data. I want to see it and how we're doing it so we can manipulate the data, see what we're doing, and then go make the operational changes. Right. So even from early days.
What does it mean?
Yes.
Right? Because it's like, because bookkeeping is backwards, right? It's looking in the past.
Yeah, it's looking in the past.
It has to be right, but the additional value we bring is like we take them into the future. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What do they need to do? What do they need to worry about?
Well, I was liking it too. If you want to lose weight, the first thing you have to do is write down what you eat.
Mm-hmm. And
okay, this is where I want to go. Okay, this is what you're doing. What do we change to get you where your goal is? That's exactly what accounting is. I first need to have what you ate which are the transactions, and then we can decide how much weight you want to lose or money you want to make, and what changes do we have to make that happen.
And my goal is the file should be set up in a way that it's providing the information. Like it's a fail if I'm keeping extra data in Excel, or if I have to get out a calculator to come up with some number that's important. Like the file should be structured to do that.
Yep. Now, where can they learn about nonprofit accounting and to be as good as you? What do you recommend?
I mean, start with Boston's courses. I mean, have I told you this story, y'all?
No.
No.
So when I was working for that theater back in the late 90s, like QuickBooks had only been out for a couple of years and they'd already destroyed it. So they were in the process of working with a really good consultant to restructure their QuickBooks file. And he was great because he's like, here's what I'm doing and here's why. And we had a phenomenal board treasurer who was the CFO for Banta Publishing. And he's like, here's the reports I need to see on a monthly basis. And here's what they're telling me. Right. And the auditor came in with a green and white ledger paper. He's like, here's the adjusting journal entries we're making. And here's why. Right. And I was very much a why person. Right. I wanted to understand the big picture. And then that job abruptly ended. And I'm like, okay, what skills do I have that somebody might pay me for? It's like, well, I seem to be decent at this QuickBooks stuff and it's new and everybody's trying to figure it out. So one of the first things I found were these discs from real world training on using QuickBooks in a nonprofit. And like, I watched those over and over. I studied them. Like that absolutely informed everything I did with clients. And, it was absolutely foundational for me. And so like 10 years later, when I first heard Greg speak, I was like, oh my God, this guy is awesome. He's the first person I've ever met who's doing things the way I think they should be done. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because he was the trainer.
His voice sounded familiar on those discs.
But it'd been so long that I didn't recognize his voice, but I just knew the stuff, right? So and everything I do is built on the foundation of what Greg does. I feel like I maybe take it to 11, but like you can't do it without understanding the stuff the way he sets it up, right?
Right. And he does webinars. If you want to learn more, he does QuickBooks Made Easy through TechSoup.
Yep, and through his own stuff, and like he has infinite patience.
And he's funny.
And he's funny with he has infinite patience with stuff that I don't really. So that's super great. I think the QuickBooks for Nonprofits Facebook group, like people get solid information in there. I need to write more stuff and do more trainings myself.
Well, you have this group now that if they really want to learn and get deep dive, they can join your group. What's the name of your group again?
It's called the Nonprofit Accounting Crew. There is no website for it anywhere.
How do they find out about it and join?
They go to me on LinkedIn and go back a couple of posts.
That's how new it is.
We're going to work on that, Megan, to get us a link.
Yeah, get us in there. We'll,
yeah. And there's two entry points because we're letting in like nonprofit accounting pros, and we're also letting in like nonprofit finance staff. And for the most part, all the spaces are the same, but like the nonprofit people get a little bit of space for themselves to talk about things that are unique to people in organizations. And then like the firm owners and accounting people have a space that's their own. $79 a month with the coupon through the end of the month. It's going to go up after that. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's real exciting. And I don't think, did we ask the question where we met?
We did not. We talked about it before we got on. But
yeah.
So Donna, where did you meet Donna?
So we met on an old podcast. I think it was called Friday Night with Accountants.
Friday Night Live, and it was like a Facebook Live.
Yeah, it was a Facebook Live. It was on Friday nights. Yeah. At my time, it was on at 7. I don't know what everyone else was.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock other time.
Great, yeah.
They would interview with Andrew Wall and Brad. I remember Brad's last name. I know it's
actually, that podcast was started by Hector Garcia and Michael Lee.
Yes, they had taken it over.
To Andrew and Brad.
Yep. So I took that, inspired what we're doing now. There's a little bit of inspiration from that now because I just loved it. it was during COVID is when I jumped into it, and that's where I met Megan.
Yeah.
And that's
And
where
really-
I met Donna. I met
Yes.
Donna there.
Yes.
It was like we just go and hang out if we didn't have stuff going on Friday nights. And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
then
usually I
met you,
didn't.
Megan. I feel I've known you since forever.
you know, because we've both been in this for a really, really long time, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember like there was like a list serve?
Oh yeah, the AIPB.
I don't even know what it was called, but I don't think it was AIPB. It was something that was originally through Intuit.
Oh, where's the
and then it spun off, and then it was something that Joe Woodard ran, and it eventually became Woodard.
Yeah.
But there had been like a listserv for people doing QuickBooks accounting.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah,
that was my entertainment, going there and giving.
And it was like early Twitter in some ways, where it was like, okay, you'd listen, I would read the questions and I would look for the smart answers. And then, like, and Deb, of course, had smart, funny answers. So I'm like, I don't like listen to anything she says, but other people too, like MB.
You are too kind. Well, it was great. I will tell you, if you really want to learn anything, teach it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how I learned. I learned QuickBooks because they had the Intuit forum and people would ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
And I would go, well, I wonder how you do that. And I'd go open up a QuickBooks file and figure it out, write it all down and go, oh, well, this is how you do it. Right. And then I would answer the question on the forum.
Yeah.
And, that's how I got good. In fact, one week I was called Ask the Expert. I was picked to be the expert. I'm like,
cool.
And it was fun because, I mean, you get some real doozy questions. Like somebody asked the question, my checks are printing upside down. I have tried everything. The settings don't work. I said, well, turn your printer over. Turn it up.
There you go.
I thought, oh my God, this lady can't, you want to help, but then sometimes, you're beyond hope.
I joke sometimes, like when I'm giving, like I shouldn't probably say this when it's live, but like sometimes my husband and I have this joke that like the dumbass is silent. Like, just give the answer.
Like, what? Well, we're at time, but I want to thank you for giving us your morning. This has been fabulous. I hope everybody in the chat understand. We do have a question from Teresa before we go. Megan, have you ever run across a nonprofit that you believe is not fiscally responsible? What were your signs?
I think, is that Teresa Slack? I have, yeah. And it is, they don't want to follow like any business owner, they don't want to follow the rules. They feel like the rules don't apply to them. Right. I had one actually say, well, we don't pay these people we can't afford to pay them as employees. I'm like, I've seen the checklist. I don't think having the money is one of the things that differentiates an employee from a contractor. Mm-hmm. And then there's folks that just like don't know stuff. And then there's the people that when you tell them make deliberate choices to essentially commit fraud.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I can't deal with them. They're done.
You're done. Yeah. You're out. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, I think because I know Teresa, she was a guest on our podcast too. We know we would never do that. And then we always think that these people, they wouldn't do it either, but they do. And I find that difficult. I mean, they're willing to cheat. So I just
there's not a tax, but it was interesting. So part of that is just telling you guys, I'm doing the AICPA nonprofit certificate. And I was just the last couple of days going over the sections on fraud. And I always think about fraud as theft. Like I'm, somebody that's, skimming off the top or making payments to themselves as a vendor. But apparently over 90% is financial statement fraud.
How so?
Where people like, oh, I'm not going to count that income this year because then I would have to file a deeper 990 or I might be subject to audit. So I'll just count it next year.
That happens in the profit world too.
Yes, I see it all the time.
Misallocate, like we have to report by function. So they like lie, put stuff into program that really isn't. And there's that line between like, do they just not know because it's complicated, or are they tweaking stuff to make themselves look better? And that like I hadn't thought about it that way, but that sort of tweaking is fraud.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So, and we didn't, I know we're running past time. So,
I could talk to you guys we could be here till lunch.
well, you mentioned the AICPA certificate. We talked about that pre-show. So, but we hadn't mentioned it during the show. Explain what that is.
There's not a lot, like a lot of nonprofit bookkeeping is hard, and there's not a lot of resources for it. Like we were talking, there's one called the Certified Nonprofit Accounting Professional, which is created by the AICPA nonprofit section for just bookkeepers and folks working there. And I've got that. But they also have 2 nonprofit certificates that I think are designed for CPAs focused on nonprofits, but you don't have to be a CPA to take it. So I'm in the process of, I've got one more section to go to get my certificate one.
Let's cheer her on. Go,
All
Megan.
right.
Go, Megan.
Thank you. I will need it.
I expect you to be done when I see you at scaling. I expect 2 certificates.
I better be done by Friday.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Easter. You'll be done by Easter.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. All right. Well, thank you again. We're 5 minutes over time. I want to, I apologize to the listeners for going over, but oh well, too bad. But thank you, Megan, for joining us today. This has been great. Donna, you have any last words?
No, thank you. Just so glad you accepted the invitation to come on. We're just so happy to have you here. I think
And if
it's a
anybody else would like
joy
to
just
be
to
our
get
guest,
here.
we are always open to new guests. So next week, I think we have Olga from Hurtado. She's she is a great accountant, runs a big firm. I know Olga from from my Reframe group. And I reached out to her and she kindly accepted. I think she's next, isn't she, Donna?
Yes, she is. So we have after her, we have Maureen Roberts from Bookkeeping Buds.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Janowski, I think, from
She
Bookkeeping
has her
Buds.
own group, Ask a Bookkeeper. Yep.
Yeah. And then we have the world famous Carlos Garcia.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
That's going to be on April 15th.
That's cool.
So
you guys are doing great work. This is fun.
But any of you bookkeepers out there that want to join us, we want to have you. This is to highlight what you do in this world. So, but again, thank you, Megan, for coming. It was great. I can't wait to see you in person. Give you a big hug.
Oh, can't wait. Can't
wait. All right. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Right.
Hit the out thing, Donna.